Tom was a young scout working for the Earth Alliance. His job was to check empty space zones near the edge of the galaxy. These zones were quiet. Nothing much ever happened there. That's why Tom liked it. He had a small ship, enough food, and a lot of time to think. One morning, while drinking his warm fruit tea, his ship's screen started blinking. It showed a red light. That meant an emergency signal was coming in. Tom stood up quickly and tapped the controls. The signal was weak, but it was real. It came from a drifting alien ship, not far from his location. Tom frowned. It was rare to find ships out here, and this one was not human. The system could not tell the species. He checked the ship's status. Life signs were faint. Someone was alive on that ship, but only barely. Without wasting time, Tom flew toward the signal. He didn't know what to expect. Maybe it was a lost trader. Maybe it was an old ship just floating alone. But he was ready to help. As he reached the alien ship, he saw it was silver and shaped like a sharp leaf. The outer side had dents, but no signs of a battle. No fire, no weapons, just a silent ship. Alone in space. Tom put on his light suit and connected his ship to the other. He opened the small hatch and stepped inside the alien craft. It was cold and quiet. The air inside was thin, but still safe to breathe. Strange lights blinked along the walls, and the floor was soft under his boots. He walked slowly through the ship, following his scanner. It showed one life form near the control room. As he entered, he saw a tall figure slumped against the wall. She was wearing a smooth silver suit, long hair falling over her shoulders. Her skin was pale blue, and her eyes were closed. Tom thought she was hurt. Her body looked weak, and she wasn't moving. He knelt down and checked her for wounds. He saw no blood, no broken bones, but she felt very cold. She needed warmth. Without thinking, he lifted her gently in his arms. She was lighter than he expected. He carried her back to his own ship, placed her in the medical room, and started the auto-heal machine. The machine scanned her body, but showed no damage. Tom stared at the screen. "She's not hurt," he said aloud. He looked at her again. Her face was calm. She was breathing slowly. Her eyes stayed closed, but her fingers moved slightly, like she was dreaming. Tom stayed near her. He tried to run the translator, but her language was not in the system. That was strange. The Alliance had records of most alien languages, but hers was missing after a few hours. Tom checked the alien ship again. He downloaded the ship's logs, hoping to find something helpful. Then he returned to his ship and checked the sleeping figure once more. She had not moved. The machine still showed she was fine. Later that night, Tom sat near the control deck, reading the logs. Most of it was in symbols he didn't understand. But the last part showed something clear. The ship was not damaged by accident. It was launched out of another larger ship, almost like it was thrown away. Tom blinked. Was she a prisoner or someone who escaped? He looked behind him. The alien woman was standing in the doorway. She had woken up without a sound. Her eyes were now open. They were bright green and calm. She did not speak. She simply watched him. Tom stood up slowly. "Hello," he said. She didn't answer, but she took one step forward. Her movements were smooth, like she was never weak in the first place. Tom raised his hands, showing he meant no harm. "I'm Tom," he said, pointing to himself. Then he pointed to her. "You?" She tilted her head. Then she walked over to the seat across from him and sat down. Tom felt a chill. She didn't seem afraid. She didn't act like someone who was rescued. It was more like she was studying him. He tried the translator again, but nothing worked. Still, she seemed to understand his actions. When night came, Tom set up a bed for her in the medical room, but she didn't go there. Instead, she followed him to the control deck and sat near his chair. She didn't speak. She didn't ask anything. She just stayed close. Tom was confused. Why was she staying near him if she was not hurt? Why didn't she speak or leave? He leaned back and looked at the stars outside. "I thought you were injured," he whispered. "But now I don't know." The alien woman looked at him, but said nothing. Her eyes were calm, and her face showed no fear. Tom closed his eyes. He knew something strange was going on, but he also knew one thing for sure. This was no normal rescue. Tom woke up early the next day. He stretched his arms and looked around. The control room was quiet. The lights on the panels blinked softly. The ship was moving at normal speed toward the nearest base. He turned his head and saw the alien woman sitting on the floor right next to his chair. She hadn't moved far during the night. Her legs were crossed, and her hands were resting on her knees. Her eyes were open. She had not slept, or maybe she didn't need to. Tom sat up straight. "Good morning," he said in a soft voice. She didn't answer, but she gave a small nod. Tom felt unsure of what to do. He had rescued people before, but this was different. She wasn't asking for help. She wasn't scared. She just stayed close, like she had chosen him. He stood up and walked to the kitchen unit. He made a warm drink and some soft food. He placed it in front of her. She looked at it, then slowly picked up the small spoon and tasted the food. She ate without speaking. Tom sat across from her and watched. "Do you understand me?" he asked. The woman looked at him. Then she touched her chest gently. "Arla," she said. Tom blinked. It was the first time she had spoken. "Arla," he repeated. She nodded again. Tom pointed to himself. "Tom," she looked at him and said, "Tom." Her voice was smooth and clear. It was the only word she said, but it felt like progress. Later that day, Tom showed her around the ship. He spoke simple words, hoping she would understand. "This is the engine room," he said, pointing. Arla looked around, nodding slowly. Her eyes scanned the controls and walls like she was memorizing everything. Tom opened the back panel of her silver suit. Inside, he found a small chip. He carefully took it and plugged it into the system. A few symbols appeared on the screen. He pressed the translator button again. This time, some words started to make sense. He tried speaking again. "Are you hurt?" The translator buzzed for a moment. Then Arla replied in her language. The machine turned it into English. "No." Her voice came through the speaker. Tom stared. "Then why were you laying like that?" The translator worked again. Her answer was slow but clear. "You picked me up. I stayed still." Tom was confused. "You let me carry you?" "Yes." "Why?" She looked at him for a long moment before answering. "You were gentle." Tom didn't know what to say. This was the first time he had seen an alien act like this. He didn't feel like a hero. He had only done what he thought was right. But Arla looked at him as if that meant something more. As hours passed, Arla stayed near him. She didn't want to rest in the sleeping room. She always sat beside him, watching his work. Sometimes she touched the screen, pointing to stars or numbers. She seemed very smart. Tom checked the ship logs again. The last part still showed that her ship had been pushed out from a larger one. There were no weapons used, no escape fight, just a clean launch. He turned to Arla. "Why were you alone?" The translator took a while to process her answer. "I was sent away," she said. "By who?" Arla's face stayed calm. "My people." Tom felt a strange feeling in his chest. Why would they do that? She looked at him again. "They chose power. I did not." Tom leaned back in his chair. He had heard of alien rulers before, but Arla didn't look like a ruler. She looked simple, quiet, and calm, but the way she spoke felt strong. "Are you someone important?" he asked. She gave a small smile. "Yes." "Are you a soldier?" "No." "Then, what are you?" Arla was silent for a moment. Then she stood up and walked to the window. The stars outside glowed like small white dots. She placed her hand on the glass and spoke. "I am a queen." Tom stood up slowly. "A queen?" "Yes." He didn't know what to say. He had rescued a queen without knowing. He had spoken to her like she was just anyone. But she hadn't acted proud. She hadn't given orders. She had stayed quiet, watching and listening. Tom asked, "Why didn't you tell me before? You didn't treat me like a title. You treated me like a person." Tom felt a strange respect for her. She could have demanded control. She could have asked to be taken home. But instead, she stayed silent, choosing to be close to him. The day ended quietly. Tom gave Arla a pillow and blanket, but she didn't use them. She sat near him again, this time closing her eyes and resting her head against the wall. Tom watched her sleep. He had never met anyone like her. Not human, not from his world. But somehow, he felt a connection. He whispered to himself, "She's not just a guest, she's someone who chose to stay." Tom sat in his chair, looking at the stars on the screen. The ship moved smoothly through space. Arla sat near him, quiet as always. She didn't ask where they were going. She didn't seem afraid. She just watched him, listened, and sometimes answered in short words. But Tom had many questions in his mind. He could not stop thinking about what she said the day before. She had called herself a queen. That one word changed everything. Why would a queen be alone on a drifting ship? Why did she not return to her people? And why did they send her away? Tom opened the file from Arla's ship again. The more he read, the more confused he became. Her ship was not broken. There was no damage. The power systems had worked fine. It had not crashed or fallen into trouble. There was one small part of the log that gave him a clue. It showed a large royal cruiser had launched her ship into deep space. It was done on purpose. Tom leaned back and crossed his arms. "You were not running," he said aloud. "You were sent away." Arla turned her head. Her green eyes were calm, but deep. She spoke softly. "Through the translator, you found the truth." Tom looked at her. "Why did they send you out like that?" Arla stood up and walked toward the window. She touched the glass again, her fingers light on the surface. "My people follow strength. They believe in rule through fear. I do not." Tom listened closely. "I wanted peace," Arla said. "I wanted to speak, not fight. But they called me weak." "They sent you away for wanting peace?" Tom asked. "Yes. They said I was not fit to rule. I was given a choice: join their path or be removed, and you chose to leave. I did not want to lead them into war." Tom stood beside her. "That doesn't make you weak. It makes you strong." Arla looked at him, her face calm but serious. "They don't see it that way." There was silence between them. The soft hum of the ship filled the room. Tom broke the silence. "So, what will you do now?" Arla said nothing for a moment. Then she replied, "I don't know. I cannot go back. If I return, they will lock me away or worse." Tom nodded. He could see the weight in her eyes. She had given up everything: her title, her home, her safety, because she refused to rule with fear. He sat down again and pulled up the star chart. "There's a neutral planet to days from here. No large cities, no war, just quiet. You could stay there if you want." Arla looked at the screen. "Would I be safe? No one would know you there, and I won't tell anyone." She gave a small smile. "Why do you help me?" Tom shrugged. "Because you helped yourself. You made a hard choice. That takes courage." They spent the rest of the day checking supplies. Arla helped in the engine room. She moved with skill, even fixing a power cable without being told. Tom was surprised. "You've worked on ships before." He said, "Yes, before I was queen, I trained as a pilot." Tom smiled. "So you can fly better than me?" Arla gave a soft laugh. It was the first time he had heard her laugh. That night, Tom sat on the floor of the control room. Arla sat beside him. He looked at her and asked, "When I found you, you didn't speak. You stayed close. Why?" Arla answered with calm words. "You carried me with care. You didn't ask for anything. You just helped. That's rare in the galaxy." Tom looked away for a moment. "I didn't know you were a queen. I just thought you were someone in trouble. That is why I stayed." Tom felt something change inside him. He was just a scout, a small voice in a big galaxy. But somehow, he had become part of something greater. The next morning, Tom woke to a warning sound. He rushed to the control screen. A ship had entered the nearby space. It was large, dark, and had the shape of a royal cruiser. He turned to Arla. "Do you recognize it?" She looked at the screen and nodded slowly. "It's one of my people's ships." Tom felt his hands tighten on the controls. "They followed your signal. They might be searching for me." Tom moved quickly, shutting off all external signals. If they see us, they'll try to take you. Arla stepped forward. We must not answer. If they find me, I will never be free again. Tom thought fast. He checked the route to the neutral planet. We can still reach it, but we'll need to move fast and quiet. Can your ship do that? We'll find out. He looked at her again. Are you ready? Yes, I trust you. Tom nodded and took a deep breath. The next part of their journey had become more dangerous, but he wasn't going to let fear stop him. He had saved her once by accident. Now, he was going to protect her on purpose. Tom moved his fingers quickly over the control panel. The screen showed the large alien cruiser following behind them. It was still far, but closing the distance fast. We don't have much time, Tom said. Arla stood beside him. Her face was calm, but her eyes were sharp. She was no longer just a quiet guest. She was focused, ready to help. The neutral planet is still ahead, Tom said. If we reach the nearby asteroid field, we can hide for a short time. Arla nodded. That ship will scan the area. They are trained to look for energy signs. Then, we turn everything down, Tom replied. He powered down extra systems and dimmed the lights. The ship entered silent mode. The engine noise dropped to a soft hum. They drifted into the asteroid field slowly. The rocks were large and moving, but Tom knew how to guide the ship. Arla sat in the co-pilot seat, watching the scanner. They are not shooting, Tom said. They want me alive, Arla answered. They will try to capture the ship. Tom turned his head toward her. Why do they want you back if they already threw you away? They fear what I know, she said. I carry secrets about their war plans. If I speak, it could cause trouble for them. Tom looked at the scanner again. Then we'll make sure you reach safety. The ship floated between two giant rocks. Tom pressed the control to stop the engines. They waited in silence for many minutes. There was nothing. Then a small red dot appeared on the scanner. A smaller ship had left the cruiser. It was heading toward them. They are searching, Arla whispered. We have to stay quiet. Tom shut off even the oxygen fans. The inside of the ship felt still and cold. Tom and Arla sat without speaking. The enemy ship passed by slowly. Its scanner beam sweeping across the rocks. Tom held his breath. After a long time, the red dot turned and moved away. The scanner showed it was returning to the cruiser. Tom waited another 5 minutes before speaking. We made it. He turned the systems back on and moved the ship forward again. We'll reach the planet in 10 hours, he said. They'll stop looking once we go dark again. Arla relaxed in her seat. You fly well. Tom smiled a little. I had a good co-pilot. For the next few hours, the ship moved through space in silence. Tom checked the controls. Arla walked around the ship. She stopped at the window and looked outside. Tom walked over to her. You miss your home? Arla looked at the stars. I miss the idea of it, not what it became. Tom stood beside her. I've never been to another world. I was born on a space station, raised by explorers. She looked at him. You understand what it means to be between places. Tom nodded. I guess I do. Arla turned to face him. You're not like the others I've met. You listen. You don't try to control. That's rare. Tom felt something warm in his chest. He didn't know what to say, so he just smiled. Later, they shared a meal together. It was simple food, but Arla ate with quiet joy. She seemed more at peace now. She even laughed when Tom spilled a bit of water on himself. That's the first time you laughed. Tom said, I forgot how to, for a long time, she replied. That night, they sat on the floor of the ship, looking at a small screen that showed stars moving around them. Arla asked, Do you think your people would accept someone like me? Tom thought for a moment. Some would, some wouldn't, but on that planet, no one will care where you came from. You can live how you want. She smiled gently. And will you leave me there? Tom looked at her. I haven't decided. Maybe I'll stay a while. Someone needs to make sure you settle in. She turned her head and looked straight into his eyes. You already made sure I lived. That was enough. He looked back at her. I didn't do it for duty. I did it because I wanted to. Arla's hand rested on the floor near his. For a moment, Their fingers touched. Tom felt something shift inside him. He had started this trip as a lone scout, but now, with Arla beside him, everything felt different. He stood up and walked to the control deck. The scanner showed no sign of the enemy ship. They were almost safe. "Get some rest," he said. "We'll be there soon." Arla stood quietly. "Good night, Tom." "Good night, Arla." As the ship continued its quiet journey through space, both of them felt something new. It was not just safety. It was trust, and maybe something even deeper. They had come from different worlds, but their path was now shared. Tom watched the screen carefully. The planet was now close. Its surface was green with forests and blue with lakes. The scanner showed no large cities or military outposts. It was a peaceful world. Just like he had hoped, Arla stood beside him. Her eyes were focused on the screen. She had waited for this moment. A place where she could start over. A place where no one would call her weak. "This world looks quiet," she said. Tom nodded. "It is. Only small villages and farms. No war. No politics." The ship began its slow descent. The engines hummed softly. Clouds floated below them, white and calm. But Tom's thoughts were not calm. He still worried about the alien cruiser. It had followed them earlier. What if it came back? What if they were watching from a distance? Tom turned to Arla. "Once we land, I'll check for signals. If they find this place, we'll need to move again." Arla looked at him with steady eyes. "They will not stop." Tom nodded. "Then we keep moving. Or we make a stand." As they reached the surface, the ship touched down on a grassy hill near a quiet river. Trees swayed in the soft wind. Birds flew across the sky. Tom opened the hatch. The air was fresh. Arla stepped out first, her feet touching the ground of her new world. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. "It feels free," she said. Tom stepped out behind her. "Let's set up a shelter. This will be home for now." They worked together, using tools from the ship to build a small cabin near the river. Arla gathered wood and stones, while Tom fixed the solar panels and water filters. By nightfall, the shelter was ready. It was simple, with two beds, a small heater, and lights from the ship's power system. They sat outside, near a fire. Tom cooked a meal while Arla watched the stars above. She spoke softly. "I never thought I would live like this." Tom smiled. "Not a queen's palace, but it's quiet." She nodded. "And real?" They ate in silence for a while. Then Arla asked, "Will you go back after this?" Tom looked at the fire. I have a duty. But I don't want to leave you alone." Arla looked at him. "You already done enough. You gave me a second chance." Tom shook his head. "You chose your own path. I just helped you walk it." Suddenly, the sound of a beep came from inside the ship. Tom stood quickly and rushed to the control panel. A new signal was flashing. It was from the alien cruiser. They had sent a message. Tom opened the screen. The message was short and clear. "Return the queen. We know you are hiding her. If you do not respond, we will take action." Arla stepped beside him. She read the message without fear. "They found us," Tom said. Arla nodded. "They always do." Tom turned to her. "If we give them no answer, they'll send a team. They'll try to take you by force. They will not ask twice," she said. Tom sat down. "Then we have to decide now. Run again or fight." Arla looked outside at the quiet land. "I don't want to run anymore." Tom looked into her eyes. "Then we stand here." They worked through the night. Tom set up signal jammers around the area. Arla helped him build cover points using stones and metal parts from the ship. They didn't have weapons, but they had speed, tools, and a deep reason to stay. In the early morning, a sound filled the sky. A small black ship was coming down fast. It landed far off, beyond the trees. Tom grabbed his scanner. 3 life forms, he said. "Elite guards." Arla stood beside him. She wore her silver suit again. Her face was calm and strong. "I will face them," she said. Tom stopped her. "Not alone." They waited near the edge of the trees. Soon, the guards came into view. They were tall, with dark armor and red lights on their helmets. They held long staffs that hummed with energy. One guard stepped forward. His voice came through a speaker. Queen Arla, come with us now. Arla stood tall. I left by choice. I will not return. You must follow the council's command. I follow truth, not control. Tom stepped forward. She is free. You will not take her. The guards raised their weapons. The air grew tense. Suddenly, Arla raised her hand. If you fight here, it will be seen as an attack on a neutral world. Are you ready for that? The guards hesitated. They looked at each other. Then the lead guard lowered his weapon. We will report your words, but you will be watched. They turned and left without a fight. Their ship rose into the sky and vanished. Tom let out a long breath. That was close. Arla looked at him. You stood beside me. Always, he said. They walked back to the cabin, the wind blowing softly around them. That night, they sat by the fire again. Tom looked at her. You didn't run. You made your choice. Arla smiled. I had someone to stand with. Their bond had grown stronger, not just through danger, but through trust. The next morning, the forest was quiet. Birds sang from the trees, and the river moved softly by the hill. Tom walked around the shelter, checking the signal jammers. Arla stood by the water, her eyes on the sky. They had faced the guards, and they had walked away. But Tom knew it was not over. The cruiser had not given up. It was still out there, waiting for a chance. Arla turned toward him. They will come back. Tom nodded. Yes, this time, with more force. I don't want others to suffer because of me, she said. No one else is here. We chose this place for that reason. Arla stepped closer. But we can't hide forever. Tom thought about it for a moment. Then we don't hide. We move. But smartly, we lead them away. She raised her eyes. You want them to follow. Yes, we leave the planet, make them chase us. Then we lose them far from here. Arla looked unsure. It is risky. Tom gave a small smile. So is saving you? She smiled back. And I'm still here. They packed what they could into the ship, just food, water, and basic tools. Tom checked the engines. Everything was ready. Before they left, Arla took one last look at the forest. This place gave me peace. She said, you can return when it's safe. Tom said. They lifted off quietly, leaving no trace behind. The ship rose through the clouds and into space. Tom kept the signal low and flew through a hidden path between moons. But within 1 hour, a red light blinked on the screen. They found us again. Tom said, Cruiser, same one, closing fast. Arla stepped beside him. They track my energy. It is part of my body. Tom looked at her. Then we changed the game. He turned the ship toward the nearby Nebra Belt, a place filled with glowing dust, broken rocks, and strange magnetic fields. It was known to confuse scanners. We go in there, he said. Arla nodded. I will guide. I trained in this area. Long ago, together, they flew into the belt. Thick clouds of glowing dust surrounded them. Tom turned off the lights. Arla used a hand scanner, pointing the way through the sharp rocks. Behind them, the cruiser followed. Its lights blinked in the distance, closer every second. Tom pushed the engine harder. The ship jumped forward, dodging through narrow paths. Arla gave clear directions, her voice steady. Left now. Up. Slow down. Wait. Now right. Tom followed every word. The ship moved like a bird between the rocks. Suddenly, a strong light flashed behind them. The cruiser had fired a probe. It flew through the belt, heading straight toward their ship. Tom yelled, Hold on. He spun the ship behind a large rock. The probe passed by, hitting a floating metal piece and exploding. The force shook their ship, but they were safe. Arla held the side rail, her eyes calm. We must keep going. Tom nodded. We're almost at the dark zone. They reached the thickest part of the belt, where the magnetic fields were strongest. All signals stopped working. Even the screens went dark. Tom used only his hands and memory to steer. Arla guided him with short words. Now left, slow, down, stop. The ship floated in total silence. After 10 minutes, Tom restarted the systems. The screen came back on. There was no sign of the cruiser. We lost them, Tom said. Arla let out of breath. They won't find us in here. Tom leaned back. That was close. She looked at him. You trusted me with your ship. You saved us. They floated quietly in the dark space. The stars outside were hidden by the glowing dust. It felt like they were alone in the universe. Tom spoke softly. I've never met anyone like you. Arla turned to him. I never thought someone from another world would help me. Tom looked into her eyes. It wasn't about your title. It was you. She smiled. I know. He reached for her hand. She didn't pull away. They sat like that for a while, hand in hand. The ship silent round them. After some time, Arla spoke. When I was a queen, I gave orders. People followed out of fear. With you, I feel something else. Tom said, respect, yes, and something more. They were no longer just a scout and a queen. They had become partners, not just in danger, but in trust. Tom stood and looked at the map. We can stay in this zone for a few days, then find another peaceful planet. Arla nodded. I will go where you go. Tom smiled. Then let's find a place that's ours. As the ship floated, deep in the quiet space, far from war and control, their hearts found something new hope. Months passed since Tom and Arla made Solari 5 their new home. Their garden was now full of green plants. The cabin was warm and strong. Birds came every morning. The lake was clear and calm. Life had become peaceful. But one evening, while Tom was fishing by the shore, he noticed a strange flash on the signal receiver he had hidden under a metal box. The red light blinked once, then again. He stopped. The receiver had been quiet for many weeks. Tom picked it up and checked the small screen. A message had come through. Is anyone there? Please respond. This is Earth Colony Ship Horizon. We received an old emergency code from this system. Tom stared at the screen. His heart beat faster. He walked back to the cabin. Arla was cooking near the fire. Something happened, he said. She looked up. What is it? A signal. From a human ship. They're close. Arla stood still for a moment. Do they know who we are? No, Tom said. They just picked up the old emergency beacon. It must be from when my ship first crashed here. She walked outside and looked up at the sky. Will they come here? She asked. They said they're searching the system. If we answer, they will know where we are. Arla thought for a moment. Do you want to speak to them? Tom looked at her. Do you? I am not afraid, she said. But I do not want to be a queen again. Tom nodded. Then we stayed quiet. That night, the signal came again. This is Earth Ship Horizon. We are searching for any life. If you are in need, we can help. Tom turned off the receiver. The next morning, clouds covered the sky. A low sound filled the air. It was not thunder. It was soft, like a humming. Tom and Arla stood outside and looked up. A small scout ship passed over the lake. They found us. Tom said. The ship circled once, then landed on the field nearby. The door opened, and two humans stepped out. One was a tall man with brown hair. The other was a woman with a scanner in her hand. They saw Tom and waved. Tom waved back. The man shouted, We're from Horizon. We mean no harm. Tom walked slowly to them. Arla stayed behind, watching. I'm Tom, he said. I crashed here long ago. We got your emergency code, the woman said. We thought you might be gone. I survived, Tom said. She looked around. You built a home. Tom nodded. This is Arla. She helped me. The man smiled at Arla. Hello. She nodded but said nothing. The woman asked, Is she from another world? Tom answered, Yes. But she's not a threat. She left her people. The man looked surprised but said kindly, We're not here to take anyone. Just checking for survivors. Tom asked, Will others come? Maybe, the woman said. Once we report this place is safe. Tom turned to Arla. Her eyes met his. She looked calm but alert. Please, Tom said, don't report us. Yet, we want to stay alone. The man looked at his partner. Then he nodded. We'll delay the report. At least for now. Thank you, Tom said. The team stayed for 1 hour, checked the area, then left in their ship. The sky grew quiet. Again, that evening, Tom sat near the fire. I think more people will come, he said. Arla sat beside him. What will we do then? We can move deeper into the hills, he said, or stay and meet them. Arla looked at the stars. Long ago, I wanted power, but now I want peace. I will follow whatever brings that. Tom smiled. Then playing carefully, they decided to build another cabin deeper in the forest, just in case they needed to hide. Tom also buried the old signal receiver near the rocks. Under a tree, if needed, he could destroy it. In the days that followed, they lived like before, but now they stayed more alert. Tom made simple traps to warn of strangers. Arla practiced old survival skills from her planet. One day, while walking along the river, Arla saw a flower she had never seen before. It was blue, with silver edges. She picked one and brought it home. This flower grows only here, she said. Tom took it from her hand and placed it in a small jar of water. It's like us, he said. Different, quiet, and rare. Arla smiled. As the season changed, new life filled the land. The trees grew taller. Birds built nests near the cabin roof. The garden gave more food. Tom and Arla felt strong. They had each other. They had hope. Then, one night, while Tom was watching the sky, he saw a new ship pass far above. It didn't land. It didn't scan, but it reminded him the world was still moving. He turned to Arla and said, "We may not stay hidden forever." She touched his shoulder. "Then we stay strong." And that was enough for now.